All right, so today we're going to be diving deep into design presentations,
Oh, yeah.
but with a twist.
Okay.
Like we're flipping the script on what really makes presentation, captivating, like what makes them really, really stand out.
Okay.
So forget perfectly polished perfection.
Yeah.
We're going to be exploring the power of embracing failure
I love that.
and showcasing your journey to
Yeah,
make
yeah.
them more engaging for your audience.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're going beyond the typical highlight reel, right? Those presentations where everything just seems so effortless.
Yeah.
And the final product is all that really matters.
Right.
But we're going to delve into how showing off your process, including like all the stumbles and those aha moments, can make your presentation so much more insightful and engaging.
You've got my attention.
Good.
So what are we working with today? What kind of sources are we diving into?
All right. Well, we've got some excerpts from a presentation and a blog post, and they're both centered around this idea of design presentations to tell like a more compelling story,
Okay.
one that really embraces the realities of design.
So instead of hiding our design hiccups, we should actually highlight them.
Exactly.
That feels a little counterintuitive, but I'm kind of starting to see how it could add a layer of authenticity, right?
Yeah. So think about it this way.
Okay.
You're saying to your audience, look, I tried this crazy idea, and it completely flopped.
Yeah.
But here's what I learned from it and how it made my design stronger.
Right.
That's way more interesting than just showing the final product being like, ta-da.
Right. It's like you're inviting your audience behind the scenes
Yeah.
to see, how the sausage is made, so to speak.
Yes, exactly.
Then how do we actually translate that into a presentation?
Well, the sources that we're looking at, they emphasize the importance of setting the stage but making it different. You still provide context about your project, but instead of just listing features, you quickly pivot to what makes your approach,
Unique.
yeah.
Okay.
What were the questions you were wrestling with? What risks were you willing to take?
So it's about revealing the why behind our choices, showcasing our ambition, even if our initial attempts didn't quite pan out.
Precisely. Yeah. Those failures actually become evidence of your willingness to explore and push boundaries. They become part of your design story.
I like that.
And the sources use a great example to illustrate this, the playable platform projects.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of those.
Yeah, so these presentations stood out because they really focused on showing the problems that they encountered during their design process.
So instead of hiding those messy parts, they celebrated them as being like essential to the journey.
Yes.
And in doing so, they created a sense of transparency and authenticity.
Absolutely, yeah. It's not about pretending that you have all the answers. It's about taking the audience along for the ride and showing them the twists and turns, the dead ends, and ultimately the breakthroughs.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like setting up a mini mystery for the audience.
Yeah.
They see the early struggles and they become invested in the process, and then they get to experience that eureka moment alongside you.
Exactly.
But how do we structure a presentation like this? I mean, where do we even begin?
Well, the sources suggest kind of tracing a narrative arc, moving from those initial failed attempts to moments of promise.
Okay.
And eventually, the breakthrough solutions.
Yeah.
Think of it like a story, like it has episodes or chapters, and each one builds upon the last.
Okay, so it's not just a random collection of failures. There's a deliberate flow, a narrative that keeps the audience engaged and wanting to know what happens next.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And each step, whether it's a success or a failure, reveals valuable insights that shape the final outcome.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, the focus should be on the learning derived from each stage, not just the end result.
Got it.
You're showing the audience your thought process, how you iterate and refine your ideas based on what you learn along the way.
I see. And they even provide examples of how to structure this narrative, right?
Yeah.
Like a single trajectory for simpler projects or a trilogy format for more complex endeavors.
Exactly, yeah. It's not a one-size-fits-all formula.
Okay.
It's a framework you can adapt to your project.
But speaking of specific needs, what about the audience?
Oh, that's a good point.
How much context do they need?
Yeah.
What level of detail will keep them engaged without overwhelming them?
It's all about finding that balance.
Right.
Setting the stage without overshadowing,
Your own contributions.
Exactly, yeah.
It's like a tightrope walk.
A little bit.
You don't want to fall off on either side.
So it brings us to a crucial question for you.
Okay.
What does your audience need to know to fully grasp the significance of your work?
That's a good question.
What are their assumptions?
Yeah.
What might surprise them or challenge them?
That's something to really think about, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's not just about telling our story. It's about tailoring that story to resonate with the specific audience that we're presenting to.
Exactly. And that's where the real magic of a well-crafted presentation lies. You're not just informing them, you're engaging them. You're sparking their curiosity.
Yeah.
And you're inviting them to see the world through this new lens.
Blowing my mind.
I'm glad.
So we've got this engaging narrative arc.
Yes.
But we also have more time to work with, right?
Yeah.
Than like a typical platform presentation.
All right.
How do we make the most of that extra time?
That's where things get really exciting.
Okay.
Having more than the typical 3 minutes, it lets you dive deeper into those critical aspects of the design process that often get glossed over.
Right.
Like you're not just adding a few extra slides.
Right.
This is about using that extra time to really delve into the nitty-gritty.
Yes.
To show the audience the thinking behind each decision, each iteration.
I see.
Imagine you're walking them through your design museum,
Okay.
pausing at each exhibit to explain not just what they're seeing, but the story behind it.
Yeah.
Like, here's where I hit a wall, and this is how I got unstuck.
I like that.
The seemingly small tweak actually came after weeks of user testing.
Right.
That level of detail just makes the presentation come alive.
Yeah, it's like you're giving them X-ray vision
Yes.
into your design process. They can see the skeleton, the muscles, the tendons, not just the polished exterior.
Exactly.
So we're not just showcasing the failures, we're also showcasing the successes.
Absolutely.
Like, what were those aha moments that shifted your perspective?
Yes.
How did those small victories contribute to the bigger picture?
I think that's a really important point, because even those seemingly small wins can reveal a lot about your process and your growth as a designer.
Right.
And it makes the presentation so much more relatable. Everyone, regardless of their field, has experienced those moments of struggle followed by a breakthrough.
Yeah.
By sharing yours, you're creating this connection,
Yeah.
a shared experience with your audience.
Okay, I'm starting to see how embracing those imperfections can actually make the presentation stronger and more engaging.
Yes. Yes.
It's like saying, hey, I'm not perfect, but I learn from my mistakes, and that's what makes me a better designer.
Exactly. It humanizes the process, and it shows the audience that you're not afraid to be vulnerable and share your journey, warts and all.
Now let's talk about user feedback. We already talked about showcasing the glowing reviews and, maybe the not so glowing ones.
Yeah.
But how do we do that in a way that's informative and compelling, right? I mean, I wouldn't want to share negative feedback. It's going to make me look bad, right?
Think of it this way,
Okay.
less like airing your dirty laundry
Yeah.
and more like demonstrating your commitment to growth.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's say you're working on an app and user testing revealed that people found the navigation really confusing.
Yeah.
Instead of glossing over that, you can say, hey, here's what users struggled with.
Yeah.
And here's how I redesigned the interface to address their concerns.
Right.
So you're not hiding the negative feedback. You're showing how you learned from it. And you made improvements.
So it's about showcasing our responsiveness to feedback.
Exactly.
And our willingness to iterate and refine based on what we learn from real users.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that level of honesty and transparency, it can actually build trust with your audience.
Right.
It shows them that you're not just trying to sell them on a perfect product,
Right.
but that you're genuinely committed to creating something that meets their needs.
Yeah, it's about showing your process, not just your product.
Exactly.
The sources actually share a really interesting example of this approach. Zhang. His method of handling user feedback.
Oh, yeah, he's great.
He downplays those generic, this is great type of comments.
Exactly.
And instead focuses on the qualitative insights that reveal user needs and gaps.
It's brilliant.
Tell me more about that.
So it forces you to look beyond the surface level.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone can cherry pick positive feedback.
Yeah.
But it's the constructive criticism that often leads to the most meaningful breakthroughs.
So instead of seeking validation, we should be seeking understanding. What can we learn from the users who aren't completely satisfied?
Exactly.
What insights can we glean from their experiences?
Yeah, and this leads to a more nuanced and sophisticated design solution
Right.
that truly addresses user needs.
Yeah.
It also demonstrates a level of self-awareness that I think is highly valued in any field.
This has been so eye-opening. It's completely shifting my perspective on how to approach design presentations.
Good.
It's not about presenting a perfect product.
Right.
It's about sharing the journey, the insights, the willingness to learn and grow.
I love that.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, we still have more to discuss.
Oh, we do.
We've covered a lot of ground, but I'm eager to hear more about how to actually put these ideas into practice.
I hear you. Yeah.
So stay with us. We'll be right back after a quick break
Sounds good.
to explore even more strategies for crafting presentations that really stand out.
All right. I'm excited.
So we're not just talking about adding a few extra slides, are we?
No.
This is about using that extra time to really, delve into the nitty-gritty.
Yes.
To show the audience, the thinking behind each decision, each iteration.
It's about pulling back the curtain.
Yeah.
And giving them a glimpse behind the scenes.
So they can see the blood, sweat, and tears that went into it.
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
So instead of just presenting a perfectly polished solution, you're walking them through the messy, iterative process.
Okay.
That led to that final outcome.
And by being transparent about those struggles, we're making the presentation more relatable.
Absolutely, yeah.
More human.
Yeah, you're essentially saying, hey, I'm not a design superhero.
Right.
I make mistakes too.
Yeah.
But here's how I learn and grow from them.
Now let's talk about user feedback.
Okay.
We know we need to showcase both the positive and the negative, but how do we do that in a way that's informative and, dare I say, entertaining?
I think the key is to focus on the insights.
Okay.
Not just the opinions.
Right, because nobody wants to sit through a presentation that's just a laundry list of complaints.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's say, for example, you're designing a website, and during user testing, someone says, this layout is so confusing, I can't find what I'm looking for.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, instead of just saying, okay, we'll fix it,
Yeah.
you can dig a little deeper.
We can ask clarifying questions.
Yes, exactly.
What specifically is confusing?
Yeah.
What were you expecting to see?
Yeah.
How can we make this easier to navigate?
Exactly. And then during your presentation, you can say, here's what users struggled with.
Yeah.
And here's how we redesigned the site to address those concerns.
So it's about turning those negative comments into opportunities for improvement and then showcasing that process of iteration and refinement.
Exactly. It shows that you're not just listening to the feedback,
Yeah.
but you're actually using it to make a better product.
Mm.
And that type of transparency builds trust with your audience.
It's like you're saying, hey, we're all in this together.
Yeah.
We're learning as we go, and we're committed to creating something truly valuable for you.
Exactly.
But here's something I've been wondering about.
Okay.
What about those lingering unknowns? What if we're still grappling with certain aspects of the project?
Yes.
Should we just sweep those under the rug?
That's such a great question, and it's something that I think a lot of people are afraid to do.
Right.
It's okay to not have all the answers.
Really?
Yeah. In fact, I think acknowledging those unknowns can actually make your presentation stronger.
I would thought it would make me look, unprepared or indecisive.
Well, think of it this way.
Okay.
Less as admitting defeat and more as inviting your audience to be part of the conversation.
Oh, okay.
You're saying, hey, here's what we're still exploring.
Yeah.
We're open to your thoughts and ideas.
Wow. That's a completely different way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Turning the presentation into a collaborative brainstorming session.
Exactly. And it demonstrates a level of intellectual honesty and humility that I think is really valuable in any field.
This has been such an insightful conversation.
I'm glad to hear that.
It's completely changed my perspective on presentations,
Oh, good.
It's not about perfection. It's about authenticity.
Yes.
It's about embracing that messy process.
Yeah.
And inviting the audience to be a part of the journey.
I love that.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, let's remember those key takeaways.
Okay.
Embrace your failures. They're valuable learning experiences.
Yes.
Showcase your curiosity. It drives innovation. Be transparent with your audience. They appreciate honesty and a willingness to grow.
Absolutely.
And most importantly,
yeah,
have fun.
Yes.
Presentations don't have to be stuffy and formal.
No, they don't.
They can be engaging, they can be thought-provoking.
Yes?
And even a little bit subversive.
I love that.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of design presentations.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you've gained some valuable insights.
Yes.
And are feeling inspired to rethink your approach.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Couldn't say it better myself.